If you've ever wanted to diagnose electrical problems or test circuits, a multimeter is an indispensable tool that can save you time and frustration. Designed to measure voltage, current, and resistance, among other functions, a multimeter is your gateway to understanding the flow of electricity in your devices. Whether you're fixing appliances, tinkering with electronics, or simply trying to check the health of a battery, learning how to use a multimeter is a foundational skill for any DIY enthusiast. In this guide, we'll walk you through the basics of using a multimeter, explain its functions, and provide helpful tips for safe and accurate measurements. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to stay updated on more how-to guides and tutorials. Understanding the multimeter. A multimeter is a compact, handheld device that combines several electrical measurement functions into one. Most modern multimeters are digital, offering a clear display and enhanced precision. Analog multimeters, though less common today, are still used by some professionals for their ability to display real-time fluctuations. The primary functions of a multimeter include measuring voltage, volts, current, amperes, and resistance, ohms. Some advanced models can even test continuity, diodes, capacitance, and temperature. At first glance, the multimeter may look intimidating with its numerous symbols and settings, but once you understand its components, it becomes a lot simpler. The three main parts to focus on are the display screen, the selection dial, and the probes. The probes, one red and one black, are used to make contact with the circuit or device you're testing. Understanding these elements is the first step toward mastering the tool. Setting up your multimeter. Before you can begin testing, you need to prepare your multimeter. Start by ensuring that the device has a fresh battery. A weak or dead battery can lead to inaccurate readings. Next, familiarize yourself with the selection dial, which allows you to choose the measurement type and range. For beginners, selecting the correct range is crucial. Setting it too low can damage the multimeter, while setting it too high may result in less accurate readings. Insert the probes into the appropriate jacks on the multimeter. The black probe goes into the common jack, while the red probe is inserted into the jack labeled for the measurement you're performing. For example, if you're measuring voltage, use the jack labeled V or volts. If you're unsure which setting to choose, refer to the user manual of your specific multimeter model. Measuring voltage. Measuring voltage is one of the most common uses of a multimeter and a great place for beginners to start. Voltage is the electrical potential difference between 2 points and is measured in volts. V. To measure voltage, set the multimeter dial to the V symbol, which typically has a line above it for direct current, DC, or a wave for alternating current, AC. For household outlets, use the AC setting, and for batteries, use the DC setting. Touch the black probe to the negative point, ground, and the red probe to the positive point of the circuit. If you're testing a battery, the black probe goes on the flat side, and the red probe on the raised end. Read the value displayed on the screen. If you see a negative sign, it means you've reversed the probes. Simply switch them for the correct reading. Always remember to avoid touching the metal tips of the probes while the multimeter is active to prevent accidental shocks or short circuits. Measuring current. Measuring current is slightly more complex than measuring voltage because it involves placing the multimeter in series with the circuit. Current, measured in amperes, A, indicates the flow of electricity through a circuit. To measure it, first turn the multimeter dial to the A setting and ensure the probes are inserted into the correct jacks. Many multimeters have separate jacks for high current and low current measurements, so choose appropriately based on your estimate of the current level. Disconnect the circuit before inserting the multimeter to prevent damage. Once the circuit is off, place the multimeter probes in line with the circuit. Turn the circuit back on and read the current value displayed on the screen. After taking the measurement, remove the multimeter from the circuit before restoring it to normal operation. Never try to measure current in a household outlet unless you have advanced training, as this can be extremely dangerous. Measuring resistance. Resistance, measured in ohms, AO, indicates how much a component or material resists the flow of electricity. To measure resistance, First, ensure the device or circuit you're testing is powered off, as applying a multimeter to a live circuit can damage both the multimeter and the component being tested. Turn the selection dial to the U symbol and connect the probes to the 2 points you want to test. When you touch the probes to the circuit, the multimeter will display the resistance value. If the display shows OL or 1, it means the resistance is too high for the selected range. In this case, turn the dial to a higher resistance range. Conversely, if the value is too low, switch to a lower range for more accurate readings. Testing continuity. Continuity testing checks whether a circuit is complete and allows electricity to flow. This is especially handy for identifying broken wires or bad connections. To test continuity, set the multimeter to the continuity mode, often indicated by a sound wave or diode symbol. When continuity is present, most multimeters will emit a beep. Turn off the circuit or device you're testing to avoid false readings. Touch the probes to either end of the circuit or wire. If the multimeter beeps, the circuit is complete. If it doesn't, there's a break or fault. This simple test can save you hours of troubleshooting by quickly pinpointing issues in electrical connections. Safety tips for using a multimeter. Safety should always be your top priority when working with electricity. Always start by reading the user manual of your multimeter to understand its specific features and limitations. Never exceed the voltage or current ratings specified for the device. When testing live circuits, use only one hand to avoid creating a path for electricity to flow through your body. Wear insulated gloves and keep your work area dry to reduce the risk of electric shock. Avoid using a multimeter with damaged probes or cables, as this can compromise its safety. Lastly, double-check that the multimeter is set to the correct mode and range before testing to prevent accidental damage to the device or the circuit. Common mistakes to avoid. As a beginner, it's easy to make mistakes while using a multimeter. One of the most common errors is setting the dial to the wrong measurement type or range. For example, attempting to measure voltage while the dial is set to resistance can damage the multimeter. Another mistake is forgetting to switch the probe jacks when transitioning between different types of measurements. With practice and attention to detail, these mistakes can easily be avoided. Conclusion: using a multimeter may seem daunting at first, but with a little practice, it becomes a straightforward and invaluable skill for anyone dealing with electronics or electrical systems. By mastering the basics of measuring voltage, current, and resistance, you'll be well equipped to diagnose and fix a variety of electrical issues. Remember to prioritize safety, take your time, and always double-check your settings. If you found this guide helpful, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more in-depth tutorials and practical tips. Happy troubleshooting!